Welcome back, everybody, to your favorite old people movie podcast, Brainstorm Brewery. Wait,
Corbin's just salty because he hasn't seen any movies ever.
I am going to watch High Fidelity. That's what we've decided this weekend that I'm going to watch.
Okay.
So I got a plane ride back. Maybe I'll find somewhere I can watch it on the plane. I don't know if I can download it on Netflix or something before I go. Maybe I'll get a chance when I get home, but I guess I'll try to watch High Fidelity.
I guess.
We discussed it a lot more this weekend, and I just don't understand why I get laughed at when I say I like John Cusack movies too. Hot Tub, Time Machine 1 and 2 are good. It just doesn't make sense. Hot Tub Time Machine 2 is like a time travel thriller on the level of Back to the Future 2. Okay, that's how good it is, right?
I think you're physically hurting Jason right now.
It deals with the paradox.
It's not even as good as Back to the Future 3. It's not even as good as the Back to the Future Saturday morning cartoon.
That was a Western, bro.
Yeah. That was real bad.
Genres. Not a time travel movie, just a Western.
What, the third one?
Yeah.
They travel through time twice.
Yeah, sure, as a plot to get them into a Western. Like, it's not relevant to the plot.
They had to get back to the future because they were trapped in the past.
Except then Homeboy's like, nah, I like it here.
Yeah, would you really stay in the 1880s for Mary Steenburgen? I'd be like...
I don't think anybody would, no.
You're hot, but you're probably addicted to laudanum and you don't shave your pubic hair. I think I'm going to go back to the 80s where girls are learning about Brazilian waxing.
All right.
Right?
Is that
I don't
just
know,
me? Jason, I've never had that conversation with myself.
They had 2 kids, so clearly he was all about that.
I just want you to know that the hotel I'm in this weekend is pretty questionable because this GP got put together at the last minute. We wanted to cover modern. It's great. It's fine. The walls are paper thin. I had to listen to the other night, outside my window, was a St. Patrick's Day party. Loud, terrible band singing "You're a Day Closer to Dying" version of Happy Birthday to somebody. Then I had to listen to them destroy Wagon Wheel and completely obliterate Freebird. While next to me, I have Rashad and his sleep apnea mask loud. Next door to me, I have to listen to some drunk people's phone call. And down on the other end of the hall...
How can you hear Rashad's sleep apnea mask over the sound of your sleep apnea mask?
I don't have one when I work. I don't even have one at home anymore because I have a baby now, so I
Yep, ever since I had a kid, my priorities changed. I really don't want to live to see him graduate high school.
Well, I can't exactly sleep with it next to him, and I sleep in bed with him because he doesn't sleep unless someone's with him, so it's a thing. Well, he does.
I hope that carries over for the next, several years.
Yeah.
That's why you don't have a second kid yet.
I mean, kinda. Also, kids are hard and expensive. So.
I was implying he was cock blocking you, not that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, sure.
Go ahead and agree with me so everyone doesn't think you're weird for being like, no, that's not an issue.
I mean, by the fact he exists and therefore having a kid is hard and we don't want to have another kid yet, I guess he's cock blocking me.
Yeah.
I don't even want to have a first kid yet.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, you're 11.
Yeah, you are a child. Just because you're
23.
Yeah, whatever. Don't lie to us. If you're 23, Jason would be 35. And we know that can't be true.
Jason's 37.
What? 33. You guys are dicks. You had a year every time you say my name, my age. You guys are jerks.
Tell me more about the war, Grandpa.
What war? The first Desert Storm? That's the one I remember.
Which war is probably not a good defense to say that you're not old.
There's been a Bush president a lot of my life. Over a third of it. So yeah, there's been some wars.
Well, that's fair. Anyways, so I hope St. Patrick's Day was as good for everyone listening as it was for me. I was live tweeting just how miserable it was sitting here listening to all of that.
Oh, you were live tweeting it. Wow, that's impressive.
Thank you.
I'm sure a lot of people were up in Just constantly updating, hitting F5 to keep track of
I'm
that.
sure they're just as interested as they were. You found a new 10-cent card in your house.
Ooh.
There's a lot of 10-cent cards
Hey,
in my
everybody!
house.
I found another oversized card today. It's worth a quarter. Oh, is that a divider? Woo!
Check out this arch enemy scheme.
If I keep going like that, I'll be able to afford more than one kid, unlike you.
Yeah, maybe you can afford a computer that works, mister. We're going to start an hour after we said we were going to podcast because you can't figure out how to plug in a microphone.
Hey, starting an hour after we said we're going to start the podcast is a honored tradition.
11:03 DJ. I'm on Skype. Corbin, where are you? As I'm setting up my computer in my hotel room. So that
we didn't say 11:03, Corbin. We said 11.
Yeah, I agree. And you got on at the same time as me. And then DJ goes, guys, my snowball's not picking up. I'm so frustrated. And we went through a bunch of technical things that we were screen sharing with him to try to fix it all. And
we were like, here's the order. You got to unplug things and replug them back in, put it in a different USB port. He's like, oh, yeah, the cord in the back of the microphone wasn't plugged in. I was like, that's so obvious I didn't even insult your intelligence by having you check that.
DJ says, tell me about the war grandpa. But I think my actual grandpa, when he was 92, was better.
Could have figured out how to plug in a microphone.
Yeah. You got to beat now. He's not alive anymore. So, like, you're probably better than him now, DJ, at electronics, but not by much.
Yeah, suck it, Gramps.
Anyways, let's talk about Magic. We didn't dive into it last week, but this week we will probably hit the Dominaria spoilers. We are past the release of Masters 25, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then, a normal Brainstorm Brewery segments. But before we jump into all of that, let's just talk real briefly about Masters 25. I mean, has anything we've said about it? Have you any insights from the release weekend for you guys?
It's a real miserable sealed format, and it's a lot of fun to draft.
It feels like another Iconic Masters for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of value?
I was hoping that it would be somewhere in between Iconic Masters and Masters 25, but it is definitely leaning towards the former, which is a little frustrating, but it's whatever. It's going to sell.
So I would hope and think that our listeners are smart enough to not have bought into this, but I will ask, have you heard any more stories about there being non-randomized boxes?
Yeah, I actually have personal experience with that. It's frustrating to admit that somebody who normally cries wolf was actually correct when they made a video. But like I have personal experience where like a few of my boxes were close to identical. There was a lot of patterns in how the commons and uncommons were laid out within the packs. And then I have like first-hand experience of like a second-hand experience, whatever, of like people messaging me and saying like, hey, a couple of my boxes were almost identical. So there does appear to be some degree of truth to that. I don't think it impacts the macro price of the set as a whole. I don't think it's going to like crush the price of the set or like impact the price of the set, but like I do have personal experience with some of my boxes being identical.
It's gonna hurt the confidence in the game overall long term. I have a conspiracy theory about this actually.
But like we've had mappable boxes before. Like Gate Crash was mappable, and nobody that didn't...
Right. But here's the thing, and I want to talk before we get into fun conspiracy theories and all that. Every single set that Wizards releases is not randomized. They cannot randomize it. There are always going to be patterns. And you print runs and you get uncommons out of the same packs, etc. That is always a reality of every box that you have bought since the game came out. It is also true that back in, I believe it was Theros and before, at some point boxes were actually truly mappable where there weren't enough different runs, different orders of things where you could be scummy and pull things out.
Yeah, Gate Crash was the last one I remember that happening with because there was a big kerfuffle about it, and like that was basically the origin of like Wizards fixing it. Was it like it became a really big deal in Gate Crash when people were learning out about how to pull specific shocklands and specific like Aurelia's Furies or whatever, and then they sort of put the kibosh on that for at least a few years. Right.
There was even an app at some point out that would allow you to plug it in and figure out the mapping thing. So, flashing forward to this. There were a lot of people on both sides of the issue of to whether or not this is a real thing or whether or not this is hype. And the answer, as usual, falls somewhere in between. There are issues with this set being not as randomized, or not as many different orders to things as some of the previous sets. But this is not every dealer you ever buy a box from has mapped the box and taken it all out. Like, there are some patterns, but this is not an issue with the product. Like, it's not easily mappable, for one.
But whether, but I think the perception might impact sales, whether or not the reality would, right? Like,
yes, and that is the problem with releasing. That is where you have to be a discerning viewer and be able to separate the sensationalism from the truth. Like, this is not the first time in the past couple of years where we've been able to open sets and been like, yep, I see this. This is the same uncommon run. This is the same common run. I can try to guess what they took out of this pack based on these other cards. Like, that is just a thing that has always existed. And were you getting scummed then? No. Did it ruin the game then? No. Now, do some people want to capitalize on some things for their own benefit? Yes. And you have to be able to tell the difference between what is a legitimate concern and what actually impacts, at the end of the day, your experience with a product, and who is preying on emotions and a general desire to hate on insert company here, right? It's trendy to hate on
and
whatever.
The other thing is that you shouldn't be buying packs from random people online anyway. Like, you shouldn't be buying packs from your local game store if you didn't already trust them or have it. Like,
exactly.
If you walk into a random local game store and they seem really seedy or they seem like something's, if you just get a bad vibe from it, you shouldn't be buying packs with that, regardless if it's Masters 25 or if it's Dominaria or Excellent, whatever. You shouldn't be buying packs with that regardless.
Why are we... Yeah, is the issue really that this set might have some patterns that maybe, and we haven't seen people talking about actually being able to map the set yet, even though there are some similar print runs. We haven't even seen any stories of mapped stuff, right? There's a difference between not great randomization or different runs, and then people actually being able to map it in a way that they can then screw people. So your local game store is not doing this. If I think of home, I can think of a dozen stores that I've been to in the area-ish, right? Spread it out a little bit. And only one of them is the kind of place that would ever map boxes. And no one goes to that store. They don't even hold events. It's just a little trap for kids and their parents who don't know any better. Everyone knew not to go there. That's the only person who's mapping this stuff. If it's even mappable, which we don't know, right?
And that person is bad enough at... That person is bad enough at the game and at finance in general that they're not going to be doing it en masse or in volume. It's like, haha, yeah, a mapped box. Okay, you made like 20 or 30 bucks extra, whatever. Like, it's not going to impact the entirety of the set.
Okay, so let's talk about why this keeps happening, why there are issues. And my conspiracy theory was the fact that Wizards won't really address it tells me, A, they've sort of addressed some of the card issues with them hiring like a materials expert to come in and sort of like standardize. But I think they switched to a cheaper card stock because this happened right around the time they got bought by Hasbro, and I think Hasbro's like, I bet you could cut your manufacturing cost by 10%. And they went, eh.
You mean the issues with the boxes or the card?
Yeah, Jason.
All kind of stuff. Because it's everything. It's anything a printer can do to cut corners. Because it's easier
the
to.
Quality's been fine until a few years ago.
It just seems like, I don't know, it seems like the fact that they won't address it means it was probably a Hasbro decision. That's my conspiracy theory. That Wizards is handcuffed by Hasbro corporate, and they're not talking about it.
They did address it. They didn't do much when they addressed it, and they didn't present any solutions, but they did address it.
Well, they sort of said, yeah, foils suck. Cool. That's not what people wanted.
Foils, to be honest. It is, I think this is kind of a silly complaint to an extent, because if it matters to consumers, Wizards will fix it because it will reflect in their bottom line. And we have seen them, for people who don't know, they did hire someone who had experience in the field, right? They had a job listing specifically for these type of things. Now, the chances are they've been locked into a contract with somewhere, probably 5 years or whatever. And, at some point, there's only so much you can doing that contract,
Well,
right?
also you need to
And
take on new if the game grows, you need like the printer they were using couldn't handle the volume, so they had to get new
Right.
people in on it because they're using a lot of regional printers for this stuff, and that's how you expose yourself to more potential for leaks, and you expose yourself for more potential to variations in
right.
card stock and color quality and all kind of stuff like that. People using different machines and stuff. So
I mean, we can talk about all day. These are the issues that Wizards or Hasbro corporate has to deal with in printing these, and we can see how these, how this can happen. All of that said, I'll be honest, it is bad, right? The card quality on the warping on the cards is to the point that it's impacting me as a vendor, as a dealer, because the stuff it's just, you can't bend it straight. Like, it's just bad. So I think this is a blip on the radar because, I mean, we have to, on the one hand, hear people complain about how their cards should all be worth $1. All the cards they want to buy should be worth $1, but at the same time complain that
they should be worth max value when they
$15
want to sell them. Yeah.
Well, their $15 foil lost value because it's warped a little bit, even though it still plays perfectly fine in this. Right? It is a problem, but let's also just be realistic. It's not as big of a problem as them messing up some of their
and the biggest
years,
thing is to just separate the conspiracy theory garbage. Like, when you see some bullshit pop up on your phone, like for a recommended video or whatever, like, take it with a grain of salt depending on who it's from. And
unless it's my conspiracy theory video, I'm going to start a conspiracy theory brain bites.
Well, that is the trick to getting popular on YouTube, Jason. Yep. I'm ready. All right, let's move on from this.
How do we move on from this? Breaking bulk?
Yeah, let's break some bulk.
Let's do the one thing DJ is good at.
Which isn't plugging in microphones.
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, breaking bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
He got you so good, you idiot.
I can find enough 25-cent cards in a few hours to buy a new microphone.
Okay, man. I'm not even going to go there.
He's like, it doesn't work. Did you take it out of the box? Oh, I'm going to take it out of the box.
Alright, Scars of Mirrodin Green Common, go.
Ancients? No, that's Rise of Eldrazi.
That's Rise of the Eldrazi, Corbin.
Ancient? No. Scars of Mirrodin Green Common?
Tangle Worm.
No, that's uncommon.
Nope, that's an uncommon, Corbin.
Oh,
Tangle Asp?
Nope. Tangle Asp is not even in Scars of Mirrodin.
Sithbear. Oh, that's in...
Not Sithbear.
That's a Mirrodin Beseech. No,
Jason, were you thinking of Blight Mamba?
Yeah.
Oh, that's from
It's
Scars?
not that either.
Oh. There's so many, to be honest, there's so many, all those Infect cards.
They're all worth a nickel, everything in that set.
There's not really that many. This one is worth more than a nickel, I will give you that.
Is it a poison creature?
Nope.
Wait, alright, let me think this through.
Is it a creature?
It's not a poison creature. I said it's a Scars of Mirrodin Green Common creature, yep.
That's so much information for me not to be able to get it. Is it an artifact that happens to be green, or is it a green?
Nope, it is the actual cost
think.
is 1 in a green.
1 in a green? Jesus, how do I not know this?
Right?
Is it an elf?
It's an elf.
Is it no, it's not Scattershot Archer. That was like Conflux.
It's not Copperhorn Scout.
Yeah, that's...
Because it costs a colorless and a green. Ah, dude, I'm stumped. I don't know.
Oh, give me a second.
While Corbin furiously types.
No, if I was going to do that, I would have just done that immediately and looked smart.
That's when you turn the voice to text on with your phone and you just repeat what DJ says. You're like, a green common from Scars of Mirrodin, and then your phone goes boop boop. Googles it for you.
What is it? What is it, DJ?
This card is called Carapace Forger.
Oh, it gets like 2/2 if you have Metalcraft.
It's a Grizzly Bear, but it gets +2/+2 if you have Metalcraft. Elf Artificer.
Yeah, it's like
Okay. This card is played in Pauper Affinity sometimes. There are versions of Pauper Affinity that play green for this card, where you just sort of like run them over with bigger dudes instead of going wide with like cheap 0-drop creatures and then flinging them with a Tog.
It's a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, this card is just sort of a Tarmogoyf in Pauper.
This is a recent mover. It's the market price on this card is actually higher than the average price, and it's because of the paper popper picks that are becoming a thing. Because this card, this was a 20-cent TCG median card a year ago, 6 months ago even,
yeah,
right?
But I still picked them.
But this was like sure. Yeah, you're right. I mean, this was like the 3-4 cent pick on the buy list. But it actually now, because of popper and paper, is moving up a little bit. So it might actually hit that dime 15-cent threshold pretty soon.
Yeah, and I mean, Affinity is one of those decks that outside of the artifact lands, which are still legal, by the way, you can totally play Tree of Tales with this card, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, outside of those artifact lands, Affinity is one of those decks that doesn't really have any cards in it that has spiked as a result of the paper popper jump. Like, if you want to pick up Blue Delver right now, it's like, oops, I guess I paid $20 for a set of Preordains and Gushes, and that's unfortunate. But like, there's other decks in the format that have not jumped yet, and I think this is one of those cards where you can blink and it'll be $1 in a couple weeks, and then you're like, oh, that's
and you'll
crazy.
say why. And you'll make a Reddit post saying why, and everyone will say, paper popper people.
Yeah, so if you need your set, I think you buy it now. It could be considered pick of the week, but it's my breaking bulk because I see these a lot in bulk, and people pick out the Galvanic Blast, the Palladium Mirrors, the Exsanguinates, or whatever, but I'm just like, doop, doop, doop.
And they would D-Day all the pins.
I actually have a pick of the breaking bulk week as well. Like, this is something I think is poised to go up, but I think you just yank it right now.
Okay.
It's a Kaladesh red common creature.
Insolent Neonate.
Nope.
What?
There's a lot wrong with that. Kaladesh red common creature.
I was just glad somebody caught that. That's good.
Kaladesh red common creature, okay.
A 1 colorless and 1 red mana, 1/3 creature.
Oh, the Reckless Fire.
Yeah, so this is a finisher in a lot of decks. It's basically an impact tremors for artifacts.
Yep.
Whenever an artifact enters a battlefield under your control, Reckless Fireweaver deals 1 damage to each opponent. This is a 25-cent retail card and a 35-cent retail foil. I don't know if you want to buy the foils, but
this card is,
what's that?
Did you know that this card is played in Pauper as well?
Gotcha.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I tried to
it's
throw
actually,
you off.
it's not a good deck. It's not like a tier 2 or tier 1 deck. It's a very janky, fragile combo deck that uses Banishing Knack and like other free creatures like Shield Sphere or whatever. And then you use like Nettle Drone, and Nettle Drone untaps whenever you play a colorless spell, and this is your win condition. So you have, it's like a really janky 4-card combo, but you have Nettle Drone in play, you give it Banishing Knack, you have Reckless Fireweaver in play, and then you just sort of like infinity times your 0-cost creature.
I've seen a lot of artifact decks run this in EDH, and with the Jwara coming out, I think that's
Jwara.
Yeah, Jwara. Jwara?
Jwara. I don't know how to pronounce it either. It's just fun to say what you
Jwara.
say.
It's definitely Jwara.
Jehoira with the Jehoira coming out.
It's Jwara.
It's
Jwara?
It's Jwara.
Jwara?
Your mama.
Jehoira.
Jehoira, go save me from the artifacts.
I think it's Joyra. In all seriousness,
that's what I was pronounced as Joyra.
Nah, it's Joyra. Anyway, with that J Dog coming out, you draw a card when you play an artifact, and I think you should play eggs. So you draw 2 cards, and then you just dump your whole hand and Fireweaver them out of the game, or Aether Tech Reservoir them out of the game, or Aether Flux Reservoir, or whatever. However you want to handle it. I think Fireweaver goes in a lot of those decks, and with a new deck about to be built, I think 35 cents on the foils is pretty good. So I think that's just going to be in like your LGS's bulk foils. So just dig through and pick out stuff like that. You know, the foil doesn't cost much more than the non-foil. I think it's going to take a lot for the non-foil to move. It's going to take a lot more than EDH and Pauper, because this is Kaladesh. This is super recent. These cards are everywhere. But the foils, I think, are going to be rare enough that I think the price has some upside, and it should diverge from the non-foil a lot, and you'll be glad you got in at the floor. So I'm not saying pay cash on these. I'm saying I'm going to pay cash on these. You know, spend $10 on 35-cent foils, whatever. But I think you pick these out of bulk, and your store should have them.
Oh, for sure. You pick the non-foils out of bulk, too. Like, this is just one of those cards where you get a bunch of Kaladesh bulk, and they're like, it's garbage because I took all the Servant of the Conduits and whatever, and like they're gonna say that they took out everything, and then you skim through it real quick and you take out all the prophetic prisms, all these things, and then when you do a card kingdom buy list and you have like 400 cards worth $300, and then you just like jam 10 of these in the envelope or in the 400 count box to pay for portion of shipping.
Yeah, because if this buy list for a nickel, that's still over 10 times the bulk rate. So like, even this hitting a nickel you'll be glad you picked them out and put them in a box. Because, yeah, if that's what we do. We use 5-cent cards to shim our boxes of, like, nickels and
you don't want to
quarters
use packing peanuts. You want to make the box not be able to move on its own.
So,
by filling it with cards.
So these are worth picking out, and I think this is a $2 foil pretty soon. Like, Impact Tremors the non-foil Impact Tremors is already selling out places. And that's recent, too, so... Impact Tremors already went to like 60, 75 cents before it started selling out. So this is not as...
Jason, there are people...
What's that?
Jason, there are people listening to this podcast who are like, Dragons of Tarkir isn't recent. I didn't play during that set.
Oh, yeah. I started halfway through Kaladesh block. That's a good point. Yeah, but this, I don't know. I think this could get almost to where Impact Tremors... It's not quite as good, but I think it's going to be popular soon. And for all the reasons we stated, definitely don't bulk these out. There were 10 times bulk.
Yep,
there you go. All right. I've got a Theros Uncommon for you guys. It's blue.
A blue Theros Uncommon.
1.5 reprints.
1.5 reprints?
One's a promo.
A dissolve.
Yep. So this is an interesting one, and I picked it mostly because this, for a minute, was over $1. Back in standard, but even after that, it held 50, 75 cents for a long time because it's just good. I mean, it's a cancel with upside. Doesn't sound
Corbin,
great.
I just want you to know that Jason also picked Dissolve less than a year ago.
Jason's picked Dissolve in the last... See, hey, man, people have come onto the podcast since then.
It was... Really? Have they? Have we gained like more than one listener of the course?
We haven't gained more than one patron at patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery, where you can subscribe to be a patron of this podcast for as little as $1 a month, which is 20 or 25 cents an episode. You can have access to our Discord server, where I will make fun of you until you leave crying. And you can also
You haven't been holding up
get stuff like this handsome drinking glass that I'm currently getting day drunk out of because we decided to podcast in the afternoon. I'm a professional, so hey, I'm going to get drunk during the day and then write my Gathering Magic article because I love you guys that much. So go to patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery. Why are you interrupting my Patreon pitch?
Got him.
Pieces of penises? What are you doing? I had the perfect Patreon pitch for our people, and you're trying to pilfer my...
It was a good Patreon pitch for the perfect people.
Yeah. Anyway.
Who play Popper.
And hey, if you don't want to give us any money, what you could do is like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube and finger blast the bell icon to get updates when we have the newest Brain Bite or Brainstorm Brewery episode on YouTube. We could get our viewership numbers up. It would cost you nothing to just like give us likes, and we're doing giveaways when we get to a threshold. So you could actually potentially win one of those giveaways, and it would cost you nothing. That's value. That's your break in bulk right there. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and that'll be a free way to support this brand. Thanks for listening.
What about our Instagram?
We don't have an Instagram because I would just use it to take pictures of my penis.
Our IG, bro. What about Snap? What about our Snap?
It's Insta, by the way. All the kids are saying Insta.
No, they say IG, fam.
Maybe your kid.
Okay.
Also, shout out to the one guy in the YouTube comments who always, ever since Jason mentioned it, he has started time-stamping Jason's Patreon pitch in the YouTube comments to let people know where it is.
That is pretty good value, actually.
Hey, man, some people just want the Patreon pitch because they're Patreon pitch people. They're like, oh, the Patreon pitch, perfect.
Yep. Anyway. Track after that tangent. Dissolve used to be 50, 75 cents. It has come down because of the reprint in Iconic Masters, but that's just a reason to scoop up the new ones, as it, slowly works its way up to that quarter, 50 cent range again, and you can get dimes for them.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you sure this pick isn't from like Kaladesh, Corbin?
Hey, man, I was trying to throw you guys off because I didn't want you to hear about Popper because I knew you were going to talk about it. And I thought if I'd made you just forget about it, we'd move on. But it didn't work.
Does anything you do ever work, Corbin?
Yeah, DJ, you're kind of like my daughter. I just distract you with a piece of cheese, and then you forget you wanted to watch TV all day.
Yeah, like, if I say Antonina, you can be like, no, that's from a different set. And this set has this chord, and this chord, and this chord, and this chord. And these are all played in Popper. That's probably where it would have ended up. There's probably no one took away.
And I would make our listeners a lot of money.
Okay, man.
You can pick out this nickel and this nickel.
Yeah. You get
Nickels for
pennies.
everybody.
You get all the pennies, and then you tell people that you have all the pennies, and now they tell you how to plug your mic in for you, so you don't even have to do it yourself. That's
You can
that
have
money
your-
draft
Exactly.
life.
You gotta pay somebody to do that.
That's that money draft life for DJ right there.
I gotta make bank off of Indulgent Aristocrat and what's the stupid 1/1 Skulk from Eldritch Moon?
Why don't you tell
even
us?
know. Jesus, man.
Why don't you tell us?
Vampire Cutthroat. That's what it is. Vampire Cutthroat.
Cool.
boy.
Thanks, DJ. That's what yeah.
We live for this.
Yeah.
Let's not even do pick of the week because DJ just gave away so much value. Who needs pick of the
Let's,
week when he's like, remember the 1/1 Skulk from Eldritch Moon?
Let's talk about Dominaria, though. We put it off last week. We've got.
I was hoping the spoilers would start, but they certainly haven't.
We're still like several weeks away, I think.
Just in their previews, not spoilers.
No, when somebody else gets a preview, it's a spoiler, and when you get a spoiler, it's a preview. That's how it works.
That is how it works. Can confirm. No,
Is that why we're never gonna get another spoiler?
look. We're just. No, it's because you can't plug in your microphone. They don't want to be associated with us.
They don't want to give us a spoiler and have Marcel pronounce it wrong.
Favorite Visions.
Yeah. I was gonna say, how could he screw up?
Fervent Visions. He would call it Fervent Visions.
Yeah, that's probably true. But I mean, yeah. For everyone who knows, turn off the podcast now. Come back in about 10 minutes if you don't want to hear about Dominaria. But that's
No, somebody in YouTube timestamp it and then do it wrong so people click on it and then it's right in the middle of some Dominaria talk and then they're like, boo! And then, you know what? Screw those people for not listening to a portion of this episode. That's
I
how
just
feel.
want to say I'm pretty hyped for Goblin War Chief plus Siege Gang Commander and Standard. Right? Like,
To go with
that's
your
pretty sweet.
Goblin Chain Whirler?
Yeah, but also Goblin War Chief and Modern might be good.
Oh, jeez. I forgot about those implications.
Yup.
Yeah, you got piles.
Here I
you
was-
basically got Legacy Goblins.
Here I was just thinking about how Squee the Immortal gives you 4 more copies of that stupid Griffin to play with food chain decks and Legacy.
Well, that's pretty sweet, too. But the thing with Goblin War Chief is I actually don't think it's as good in Modern as people think it is. For the fact that you don't have Lackey. Like, if you think about the busted Goblin decks and whether it's Legacy or Extendeds or whatever formats past, you had cards that cost more than War Chief, and you could play them in your deck because you had a combination of Ether Vial, Goblin Lackey, and Goblin War Chief to get them into play.
and Warren Instigator.
And that's a card that exists. There's a big difference between 2 mana and 1 mana.
Sure.
Like a giant
You had
difference.
redundancy.
No, but you can't play Lackey in Modern. That's the point.
No, I know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, you don't have Ringleader, right? So, what are we actually saving mana on with our work? That's the issue. Like, yeah, you can play on turn 4, you can play your Pile Driver for 1 less mana, and it will have haste. Or you could just play Goblin Chieftain, and it will still have haste, and it'll have +1/+1. Like, I just don't think the mana discount is that
I
relevant.
thought you were gonna plug your Merfolk there. You were gonna be like, you could play your 1 mana Pile Driver, or you could play your 1 mana Curse Catcher.
You
Could have plugged Merfolk there.
could do that. That's true. But anyway, so I think War Chief is a sweet reprint, and I am excited about War Chief plus Siege Gang Commander because that is worth getting a discount on in Standard. But for everyone talking, I do think it has the potential to spike some Goblin cards. You know, I think Reckless Bushwacker is probably the most low-hanging fruit, right? I mean, Goblin Bushwacker obviously as well, but that has more reprints. Reckless Bushwacker is uncommon from Oath. So that might, just kind of thing that might be a Breaking Bolt before too long. I mean, it already was, really, but it's just worth keeping an eye on. I think this Goblin Warchief is iconic enough, not to mention Squee the Immortal, the 2/1 for 3 that you can cast from exile or your graveyard. It's going to be some Goblin stuff, I think, roll around as a result of these. But I think that's a pretty cool part of Dominaria.
You know who was a real bushwhacker? Emmett Brown when he went back in town in Back to the Future 3.
Oh my god.
It's a callback.
Wow. Yes, Jason.
Does Jason know the timestamp on that, too?
It was a callback. Good job, man.
Someone will know the timestamp.
Jesus. I don't know how we move on. What card ties into that? Tell me how I'm supposed to get us back to Dominaria after that one.
Because Dominaria is Back to the Future. It's like back to the... We're going back, but we're...
You know what? I have a Lich's mastery of
future
comedy,
magic.
and that was a gayest blessing that I just made. And you could dub me the best pun maker, because in the blink of an eye, I just referenced a bunch of set cards, because I have some sort of precognition field for recognizing puns. And with a Warlord's Fury, I made a dark bargain that will befuddle you. Llanowar Scout. Boom!
That was a terrible Mad Lib.
If I was just looking at the spoiler on the screen, I don't have any of these cards memorized. I don't know these names. Valduk, Keeper of the Flame. These are bad names. I don't like any of these. I don't like how the Weatherlights got a whole new crew. You know we're recording a video right now. You know you're on the podcast.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shoot! It happened!
Oh?
Why did you say something?
Because I wanted you to wander into the video so I could make fun of you on the podcast.
Cameo!
Yeah. Just wandering in. You look like you're just wandering around. Oh. Yeah, just like, I live here. I get to be in the basement and just hang around while you're podcasting. Mom, go upstairs. Meet me a Hot Pocket. I'm sure you podcast. I was so glad that happened, because why didn't you warn me?
Can we sub Jason out?
Yeah.
Please?
Now everyone's been on the podcast. That was great.
She's more tech savvy than DJ.
That cannot possibly be untrue, so it must be true.
I'm so glad that happened. So what do we care about from this set?
The Merfolk.
I care about Tetsuko Umezawa, the Fugitive.
What's it do?
It's a 1 and a blue for a legendary creature, a human rogue. Creatures you control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. She's a 1/3. I'm excited because I play a Sig River Cutthroat tribal rogue deck, and a lot of my creatures have 1 or less power.
That's very specific.
Last night, actually.
I'm excited
What'd you say,
for
Corbin?
half of these legendary creatures so far.
Yeah, so Dominaria will have a legendary in every pack. That's kind of sweet, right? There's all the legendary sorceries and spells, whatever, so that you can only cast them if you control a legendary permanent, which Planeswalkers are all now legendary.
I'm excited for Rat Colony.
Yep, me too. So, read Rat
Me
Colony
four.
for us.
1 in a black, Rat Colony, creature type rat. Rat Colony gets +1/+0 for each other rat you control. A deck can have any number of cards named Rat Colony. This is Relentless Rats 2.0. I want 600 of these in my inventory.
Do you mean
now.
Shadowborn Apostle?
No.
Wouldn't it be Relentless Rats 3.0? Be a Shadowborn Apostle? What was
Shadowborn
Relentless Rats
Apostle didn't
2.0?
scale
No,
off
this
the
is
number.
a rat. This is a rat, Corbin. It is the second
Oh, that's
Relentless
what
Rats.
we're going with the creature type, and not the fact that they're the only 3 cards in the history of the game to say you can have any number of them in your deck. Okay, my bad.
Well, it's also better than Relentless Rats because it costs less and it gets power.
Look, I'm hyped about it too. I think it. Sure. This is the 3rd version of this this wording we've had in Magic.
I think.
Right?
I think Muldrotha the Gravetide will be the
Is it the Soul Tide?
Yeah,
one?
it'll be the dumb obvious one. It'll be the Marin of this set probably. I think it'll be like the one the spiky players try to build. During each of your turns, you may play up to 1 permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard, which is
This might
crazy.
be too expensive for those kinds of decks.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think you want to play Damia instead,
You
Well,
don't
Tommy,
think
or like Tassagir.
Tassagir?
I think like Spikes will gravitate toward Damia or Tassagir over this.
Tassagir? Where's the Y
Tassagir?
come from?
Tassagir.
Where's the EA come from? What language pronounces the letter U EA?
They got a lot of 6-7 mana legendary creatures in this set, so it's gonna be a little rough for EDH, I think.
What about what about Joda?
What about Joda?
You can cast
I
Wooburg.
don't think Joda does
You
anything.
can cast Wooburg instead of a mana cost of spells.
Yeah, that's
then you-
kind of cool having Fist of the Suns, but you can't actually play a Joda deck because you don't have green or black mana in a Joda EDH deck, so it's
What?
a worthless commander.
What?
I thought the
What?
identity
Jason,
is-
its color identity is based off of the entire.
Oh,
text
that's
of the
right.
card.
Even
You can play like the future Sapperling.
yeah,
Timespell
it's the
Sapperling
the
guy,
Theon Havenwood rule. For some reason I thought that reminder text didn't count like extort, but that's not reminder text. That's rules text. Okay,
No,
fine.
you can play 5-color.
It's a 5-color deck. You got me.
yeah, it sounds like that might be sweet. I mean, I don't know anything about Commander, and it's a rare
what's
in
the card?
a set that's going to be super popular. So I don't really think there's much to look at besides foils a couple months after release. But
I like Steel Leaf Champion a lot for a Breaking Bulk.
what is it?
It's a green for a 5/4, so it's sort of a reverse
Oh, yeah.
Leatherback Beowulf, but it can't be blocked except by creatures with or it can't be blocked by creatures with 2 or less power. So it's very much like in the mono green Devotion deck for a budget modern deck.
Dude,
Well, I think I like all
mono green.
all 4 of the triple color ones they've spoiled.
Dude, this is mono green Stompy right here.
Oh yeah, mono green. Like it's still kind of a Devotion deck because it plays Aspect of Hydra or
Yeah.
whatever. But like, that deck is like one of the best entry points into modern. If you're like, I have $50 and
Yep.
want to make 75 cards in my deck.
And that deck is surprisingly competitive.
No, it is. Like my friend played it at our Tuesday Night Modern deck last week, and he like raced burn with it, like effectively.
No, yeah, like
all
you
3 games.
just when that deck has a good draw, it just you Aspect of Hydra for like 9 on turn 3 or 4.
Now, there is something I want to talk about with one of these dirtily 6 mana commanders. Firesong and Sunspeaker, I think a lot of people have been waiting for because it's a Boros commander that doesn't suck because it doesn't just make you attack with creatures. I think it's going to spike a lot of stuff, and I think the most important aspect that I think a lot of people are overlooking is how obvious it is to build the deck. There's not a lot of customization possible. You're just going to put Bright Flame and Lightning Helix and, stuff like that in the deck, and then you're going to kill them with Aetherfrox Reservoir, and you're going to be like, well, this
What
is
is
way
this?
better than...
What is this card, Jason? Tell people.
Oh, I feel like we talked about it last week. Anyway, it's red instant and sorcery spells. You control of lifelink, and whenever a white instant or sorcery causes you to gain life, they deal 3 damage to target creature or player. So it doubles your Lightning Helix effects, basically, and it turns your salves into bolts and your bolts into salves.
There's a lot of people who are probably upset that you can't play Soulfire Grandmaster in this deck.
Yeah. There are a lot of people that are upset that Soulfire Grandmaster isn't legendary.
Yeah.
So this deck I was thinking about it, I'm kind of excited, but at the same time, there's not a whole lot of ways to build. So I'm thinking the fact that it's so obvious means everybody that builds this deck is going to be vying for the exact same cards. They're going to want those Bright Flames and those Lightning Helices, and they're going to want, Reiterate. And so I kind of think that this will secretly have a bigger financial impact than some commanders that aren't as obvious, because people will be basically after the same 99 cards.
What do you think about Tiana?
The Angel?
Yeah,
I
for like a similar like Boros equipment matters sort of.
I like anything that sort of deals with equipment right now, because they have that equipment Helm of the Host. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary. If the equipped creature is legendary, that token gives haste. So all of a sudden you just chain a bunch of Godo Bandit Warlords or Kiki-Jikis or stuff like that. I think anything that finds Helm of the Host and helps you make some dumb combo is good. So I kind of there's Tiana Ship's Caretaker, which says whenever an aura or equipment you control is put in a graveyard from battlefield, and return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step, which is really good for keeping that helm around and keeping them from blowing it up. And then there's that, what was that other card that was... boy, I can't find it now. But there's like a white card that... is it the Ancestor's Apostle? No. Anyway, there's some stupid white card that's also deals with ores and equipment. So I think between all that stuff, like maybe some red-white deck that's like maybe some dumb Godo combo or something like that could be a thing. So I kind of like Tiana as well, but she's only uncommon, so I don't know how. Maybe See, I don't really know what the price is going to be with the legendaries being in every pack, but maybe the foil price will like diverge a lot because people will want the foils.
Do we know about the legendary in every pack if it's a special slot like the double face cards?
I think it would have to be to guarantee it. Otherwise, you can't just say, "Well, there's something common." I think it has to be a slot.
Yeah, I think so.
Otherwise, you couldn't guarantee it. So you could get double rares.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could get like your legendary rare, then your normal rare, then your foil rare, just sort of like in Innistrad where you could get your double faced rare, your normal rare, and then
that's
your,
pretty sweet actually.
Foil.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that'll mean necessarily because I would assume you can also get legendary rares as your normal rare, right?
Yeah, this set's got triple rares and people are bitching that there's no masterpieces.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see because this could depress prices, right? The thing with the double face cards in Innistrad is they only come the double face slot, and the normal rares don't come the double face slot. If your legends can come in either slot, seems the reason there's just going to be more of them, so it might actually impact prices. So it's just something to keep in mind. We'll see when we get more details.
Well,
obviously,
do you think maybe the Firesong and Sunspeaker would have to be in the legendary spot? It couldn't be in the regular rare spot?
I don't know. That's what I'm. We don't know. If it is in both,
because there's a lot of legendary creatures in the set, and it doesn't make sense to force every single legendary creature just into the legendary slot. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so when we get more information about that, we'll see. But it will be financially relevant. All right, let's talk about the Merfolk. Hype.
Merfolk Trickster, blue, flash. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. It loses all abilities till the
That's really
kills the Goyf.
Yeah.
Turns the Goyf into an 0-1.
Kills it dead as an 0-1. I don't know how it kills it, but yeah.
Makes combat difficult for opponents. And moreover, I have my eyes on this because, Rivals of Ixalan was the second set in a block that wasn't necessarily loved by people. People are theoretically going to love Dominaria. It's designed by Richard Garfield, iconic, going back to stuff, etc., etc. This is a card that will be very, very good in Standard. It messes up combat for people like crazy. It taps down things. It has flash. It allows you to play at instant speed a little more. Come rotation, that Merfolk deck in Standard is going to have a lot of pieces, and something like Kamina could pop back up. So just keep an eye. It's hard to tell exactly how good this card is, but keep an eye on this, because if it makes Merfolk even fringe playable in Standard, like more than it is now, starts to actually see a little bit of competitive play, it's just the entire deck comes from Ixalan right now. So that's as we move forward.
This is just this is the deck that's just being kept down by Scarab God, and once that leaves, if there is not some sort of oppressive end-all creature that cannot be beaten by Merfolk, then that deck has a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, and the thing is, the deck struggles with big creatures and just things going over the top of it. And some of those things, like Approach of the Second Sun and Scarab God and to an extent Hazoret, and some of that stuff will be rotating. And this goes for every tribe in Ixalan, because we're kind of getting to that point now, right? We're heading into the spring set, then we'll have the core set, then all of a sudden we're getting hyped for October and it's rotation again, right? It's secretly not that far off, and you are going to start to see a lot of those tribal decks that are playable really, kind of form on the sidelines quietly and be ready to take off on rotation. And I'm just saying, over the next couple sets, keep an eye out for things like this that sneak in there as part of, a spoiler that otherwise doesn't really, it's not like there's tribal Merfolk in the set. It's just a one-off card that might make a big difference. And we might see the same thing with, I don't know if dinosaurs are a thing or what have you, but just keep an eye on those things as we move forward, and keep that in mind now while you can actually pick up those cards that will be worth more money 6 months from now. All right, anything else from the set you guys want to touch on?
That's just it. It's got a lot for everybody, I think. There's casual stuff. There's a ton of EDH stuff, but I think this actually has enough gas to make standard pretty interesting. Also,
I'd also like to say you should probably buy list your check lands now, as opposed to 5 or 6 months from now.
I agree,
because the buy lists on those are going to be high enough that stores still need them to sell to EDH and modern players. They still need to sell their $7 Sulphur Falls to modern players and store them for the next 5 or 6 months. But once that time period hits, we're gonna see the same thing happen that the checklands did, except these are higher than those checklands were at that time. So we're going to see $3 Sulphur Falls, $2 Isolated Chapel, just like we see Glacial Fortress and Hinterland, or Glacial Fortress and Dragon Skull Summit. One or two of those specific checklands and enemy colors might end up being better, just like Drowned Catacombs ended up being $6 because of blue-black control for a while. But it's better to hedge your bets now, sell your checklands, and then buy in later when supply is at its peak, and then find out which one ends up being the best.
Right, I agree, because this is a good point, because we've seen in past standards where sometimes reprints of lands actually cause the originals to become more expensive. I think Pain lands are the best example. Once they hit standard, the old ones suddenly became worth a lot more than they were worth before. So if you were just to look at that, you might think, well, I guess I should keep all my woodland cemeteries or whatever, because, hey, the same thing could happen, right? Hinterland Harbor, Green Blue Merfolk, right? That sort of thing. But it's worth, that only worked because the Pain lands were $1, or, because your Sun Petal Groves and such were $2, right? So you didn't really lose value on them.
And plus,
starting this much higher, it just means that it's not the same rules don't apply.
And there are more Hinterland Harbors than there were every printing combined of Yavimaya Coast, or even Brushland.
Well, yeah, that's probably also true. But just the idea that it basically doesn't come down to can Standard make a card hold the price it was before because it's played. It's more like Standard lands are always going to be in this $2 to $6, $7 range. And it doesn't matter what they were before.
Yeah.
Right? So if they were cheap before, yeah, they'll probably come up a little bit. But if they were expensive on that upper end before, it means they're coming down. I think that's the lesson to take from it.
Card Kingdom is still buying Sulphur Falls at $7.30, and they're buying Hinterland Harbor at $4.20.
Yeah, I shipped all my falls.
Yeah, definitely do that. I mean, Blue Red Storm is a great deck of Modern, right? It's one of the best decks in Modern right now, and you're right. We're still a ways off from peak supply on these things. I know everyone's talking about Dominaria, and we're spending the episode talking about it, but the set is still a ways off, right? That was a very early leak. So it's really brutal. It is. It's so bad for them because not only does it disrupt the preview cycle for Dominaria, and they have said publicly that New Phyrexia, the Godbook being leaked, impacted the sales of that set in a noticeable way. So not only is that, essentially true, it's basically half the cards for Dominaria, but it's mostly rares and mythics. So not only does it impact that set release, it also impacts the Master 25 set release because this all broke a week before the set came out, right after they got done hyping it. And then throw in the box issues, and it's not a great time for the bottom line. At Wizards of the Coast. I'm not saying I don't think Dominaria will be popular or whatever. Richard Garfield's track record, if you look at the actual Magic sets he's designed, it's Innistrad and Return to Ravnica, or no, it's original Ravnica.
No, it was original Ravnica, and then before that it was Tempest.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know about Tempest. I don't know that far back, but Ravnica and Innistrad. The track record is there, and this is Dominaria. The set seems like it'll be super popular, but at the same time, the Wizards not doing themselves any favors with some of these slip ups. So, anyways, we'll see. All right, let's knock out a couple emails here before we do pick of the week.
All right, this is a email from Everett Brogan or Brogan. He told me to butcher his name, so I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Dear DJ, the semi-host. Don't let Jason tell you different if Corbin can just ditch the podcast for 3 months and still be a host you're at least half one.
3 months.
Confirmed.
not a real fan.
Yeah, whatever,
Thinks
Bro
they're
Sidon,
half-host.
Lord of the Brogan. Whatever, man.
Yeah, get out of here.
Jason, the funny talent on the show, and Corbin, who, well, he's Corbin and thinks Inala is a scary commander, so him disappearing for 3 months is kind of explained.
Got him.
Inala is scary.
It's mediocre.
You're mediocre.
Oh, got him.
Host.
Got him.
This email is mediocre.
Anyway, introductions aside, and after DJ is done commenting on my Dark Magician avatar, he's got a Dark Magician avatar.
That was a good comment.
Neat.
And butchering my name for the 4th or 5th time, with Masters 25 coming out, there are a few questions I've come up with for EDH Finance as follows. Number 1, do you think first-time foil commanders like Prosh will hold value? No.
He insults us and then wants us to answer questions?
Nope. I mean, they're not going to hold value. I actually just wrote my article on this this past week, but like, if you look at the track record for other first-time foils, there's a lot of hype going into the set release, like Gamble, like Worn Power Stone, like these first-time foils that people are super hyped about, and then the people who need them pick them up
impatiently. So there's like, yeah, they're paying that peak prices to get them right away.
Yeah. There's people who are like, I have 96 cards in my Gisela deck, and there's 4 foils that I don't have, and these are those 4 foils, so buy. So people are going to buy that Magus of the Wheel, that Ash Barons, like, right out the gate, and then it's going to drop off severely, so I don't really...
It'll go back up over time, but, like...
I don't think that Prosh and Animar go back up over time.
You think they go down and stay down?
Yes. Look at every other first-time foil card ever that's been printed like as either a Judge foil or as a like Masters release foil or anything like that. They all just slow to a crawl, and then they just never go up again.
Well, the thing is, Commander, because they design for it, because we get Commander decks every year, it's not, we don't necessarily live in the world where people have their Commander deck and foil it out over a process of years and keep it for a decade. People like to have fun in the format and move to new cards and move decks, and that's all fine. It's good for them. It's good for play groups to keep it fresh. It's good for Wizards, and that's all good. But yes, it does mean that the crowd for foil commanders is just smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah.
This is not Commander of even 5 years ago, much less like 7-8 years ago when it was just getting off the ground, where there were like a dozen popular commanders and the foils were super expensive because everyone had their X deck. Now there's a million different decks, and that's good. Good for the format, but not necessarily good for foil prices of
There's a million different decks a year. Like,
it's fine for the cards that go.
I have Prosh because I haven't bothered to take it apart, but as soon as I feel like I would rather put that food chain and doubling season elsewhere, I might get the X.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, that's why we see foil commander cards, like say Cyclonic Rift or whatever. Those hold up fine, but the commanders themselves. Like, when's the last time you played against an Animar deck? Like, for me, it's been a long time. Even popular commanders, you can go, and it depends on your play group, but I get a decent little variety of GPs and stuff. I played against a SIG deck for the first time last night. There was some other popular commander I played against for the first time, basically.
What, SIG River Cutthroat?
Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, my boy!
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. As a listener to the podcast, he played with Ed Waters, Sagicalic, and I. We had a good game. But, I mean, it's just, even if we think something's super popular, and even if the cards didn't go up or whatever, there's just so many out there that...
I mean, there's only 17, like, this was the example I used in my article. There's only 1,700 Prosh decks and 1,700 Animar decks versus, like, 26,000 Ashnod's Altars in decks. Yeah. And Ashnod's Altar, when it was first-time foil in Eternal Masters, started out at $30, slowed down to $8, and it's never gone up. And it's still the only first-time foil. It's not like it got hit with a 1-2 punch with this foil reprint. It's just a first-time foil, printed in 2016. It dropped to like 10, and everyone's like, oh, it'll go back up for sure, but it just doesn't. They all just
and that's really interesting, because that's not even just commanders. That's just a card.
Yeah.
So
my series that I've been writing for like the past couple of years on MTG Price is really predicated on, commanders are cool, but look at the cards that they're going to affect around them. Don't look at them. Like, their prices are almost not even that relevant. Like, when a new thing gets printed, don't worry about what the price of the stupid Fire Sun and Speaker Song. Don't worry about them. Worry about what's going to happen to Bright Flame and, stuff like that. Worry about Blasphemous Act. gaining you 96 life. Worry about stuff like that. Don't worry about the commander itself.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting note, DJ, on the foils. People definitely go check out that article on PCG Player because that is some really good data going back historically worth looking into. Maybe to reevaluate how we look at some of this stuff, right?
The reason I started out with the article is because I got a message on Twitter saying, like, hey, do you think foil Magus of the Wheel and foil Swiftfoot boots will hit a bottom and then go back up? And my initial response was like, yeah, probably you'll find a good buy-in. And then I looked into the data for, like, Myriad Landscape and Ash Barons versus Ashnod's Altar, and I'm like, there's no data to suggest that first-time foils will hit a bottom and then start to rebound. They just don't.
But, I mean, how many years are we talking?
Yeah. That's the thing. Some of these cards are...
if your argument is that, like, you're looking at a 5-year plan, then, like, there's a lot of better stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also not necessarily... The question doesn't necessarily come...
And these are master sets where they're $12 booster packs and people aren't buying packs anymore.
Well, the idea is that it's not necessarily somebody who wants the best way to make money over 5 years. It's more maybe just people who want to buy into those and want to know if they should prioritize buying into those over buying into something else.
Right. So. And my answer to those people is when foil Ashnod's Altar has been $8 for a year and a half, buy it.
Yes. Yep. Right. Okay.
And that's sort of like the rule we always say on this podcast is if you need cards to play with, foil or not, just buy them.
Everyone needs
unless there's like a 800% drop in like imminent, just buy them.
Yep.
Because the play value you get out of them will exceed the monetary value you spend.
Yep. All right. Any more to this email?
Yeah, there's this. That was part 1 of 3.
Oh, come on. How much does this guy give us?
That's not exactly...
You don't get a 3-parter unless you're at least a $10 patron.
I think he's a 10.
Well, there you go, Jason. Hit your level.
I'm like...
Just read the question. I got to get out of this hotel soon.
Number 2, for cards with the old border, like Imperial Recruiter, will the value hold on the older printing based on the fact that it's old border or just on the fact that it is scarce?
No. None of the above. They're dead.
Also, Imperial Recruiter also got a Judge foil recently, so it's not really an old border card.
Imperial Recruiter is dead. Forget about it. It's over.
The original will still always hold. It's not like the original is going down to $35.
The original is not going up in value.
No, I'm not saying it's going
up.
That's what
I'm saying.
I'm also saying
that's the point.
If you're somebody who collects the old border, who is always like, I need to have the original printing. Don't wait for the old one to go down to $35 because it's not going to.
Right, but what we see with and this is price memory comes into play. What we see on a lot of these old cards is just no one buys them anymore, right? Like, it's not that the price will necessarily plummet because there's not that many out there for people to sell, but no one really wants to buy them either. So it just slowly tails off over years, and you can go look at cards over the past several years that have got those reprint treatments from P3K or whatever. They just stagnate and slowly fall and just die. Like, the card is just, forget about it. Doesn't exist anymore. All right, what's part 3?
And next week, based on what hasn't been... We got this email like a week or so ago, but next week, based on what hasn't been reprinted, what cards may be spiking in price? Will stuff like Phyrexian Altar jump again?
Oh, he's talking about my tendency to say there's some stuff that needs to get reprinted, and if it's not, it goes up. But I think that's not going to... There's nothing based on what it isn't in Masters 25 necessarily.
Well, I had some Phyrexian Altars on TCG Player at $39 for like 2 months, and they only started selling after the full preview came out, and I am now almost out of Phyrexian Altars at $39.
I mean...
So there were a lot of people who were hedging their, like, just like Karn, just like Mox Opal.
Crucible of Worlds was my card that I said better be a Masters 25 otherwise.
There were a lot of people who were like, this is probably going to be in the set, I'll just wait.
And that is true.
And then it wasn't, and then they...
It happened with Liliana. It happened with Liliana, too.
Yeah, Liliana as well. So, yeah, Crucible, I don't know what they're doing with Crucible of Worlds.
It's insane, actually.
It's negligent not to give that card a reprint at this point. Remnant Excavator doesn't do it.
Yeah. It is just weird to me, and we can always, pick on whatever we want to pick on, but I think...
It's not like they don't know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I think for the most part, Wizards is very clued in to what cards need reprints, and sometimes it takes them a year or two to get to it, but like negligence kind of the right word. It's been like 5 years that we've been like, this will be in the next set. You know, like
and Crucible would have interacted pretty well because there's Ash Barrens and Myriad Landscape in M25 or A25. Sorry, so like it would.
Yeah,
it's just crazy because like for a while that card was Damnation, where everyone was like, this has to be in the next set, blah blah blah, and it never was. But then it was, and we still don't have Crucible. It's just weird. I just don't get it. I mean, it's fine. It'll be a Super Chase card in Modern Masters 2018 or 2019 or whatever we get next, or the 2 years after that. Like, who knows? But I mean, I don't know. This is the price of admission when you choose to play Magic. They are going to make cards expensive by not reprinting them when you want them to reprint them, and then you will be super excited to open them in a booster 5 years later. That's how it works. Everyone knew that was the deal when they started playing Magic.
I mean, it was basically Crucible or Recruiter, and I guess I'm glad they did Recruiter just because the few people that need it.
That doesn't sound like an argument to me.
I mean,
the way they structured the set, yeah, probably.
It was probably Crucible or Engineered Explosives. And they went with the one that...
And we got neither.
You're thinking, no, we got
Chalice
of the Void, yeah.
Oh.
It was probably Crucible or Chalice, and they went with the one that's played more.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Crucible. Is it expensive? Yes, but most people only need one.
Yeah, it's a little fringy.
Chalice is very expensive.
People need 4.
Right, yeah.
2 to 4, yeah.
All right.
So,
all right, let's get picks of the weekend. I'm getting kicked out of this hotel in about 5 minutes, so...
Hang on, to get a cap off the email.
All right, finish it off.
Thank you. There's one more insult in there for you, Corbin. Thank you guys for all you do and always having this awesome podcast. I look forward to it every week and listen to it as I drive to work. DJ and Jason, keep up the good work. Corbin, ... try not to be so much like a typical Corbin. Sincerely, Everett, sent from my iPhone at 9:14 in the morning in my bed while my girlfriend is asleep so she won't judge me. Sent from my iPhone.
What do you think?
He wrote that twice.
What do you think a typical Corbin is?
Just being all Corbin-y. You know?
Oh, okay, fair point. Yeah, I hadn't considered that.
Like, you're just like all Corbin, like, oh, I'm Corbin, just being all Corbin-y all the time, and everyone's like, he's just what a Corbin. You know? Like, it's just like a Corbin.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. All right, let's do picks of the week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
Okay, mine is partially predicated on the same thing, artifact-based decks. This is a non-reserve list card. I had to double-check that. It's like currently $1. It's Copper Gnomes. Copper Gnomes is how you cheat in artifact decks. Plus, it goes to the graveyard, and you can bring it back with Scrap Mastery and stuff like that. Yeah, I like Copper Gnomes a lot, and it's really old.
The number of turn 3 Blight Steals I played off of that on Glissa are high.
Yeah, it's a really old card. It's a really old card from Urza Saga, and it's $1. And there's nobody. Stores have like 5 copies of them. Like, you could really mess shit up for $100. So go nuts.
Don't go nuts. Don't
get together in the Discord. We'll do a coordinated buyout. We'll make a YouTube video saying that this is on the reserve list and it'll be gone tomorrow.
No. All right.
It's not on the reserve list. You just gotta tell people it is, and then boom, magic. We're good at finance. Look at us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
It's a social experiment.
Just a prank, bro. Just a Copper Gnomes prank.
Yeah. All right.
My pick is.
Go ahead.
All right, go. No, go.
All right.
Already interrupted.
I'm gonna jump in with a little modern. We had the modern GP. I don't have enough time to bore you all with it. However, there were 8 different decks in the top 8. It was sweet, but we had a deck that won a GP a few weeks ago. It's still top 8 in the new Jace Bloodbraid era, in which we had 2 Jace decks and 2 Bloodbraid decks in the top 8. But I'm talking about Red Green Eldrazi, and specifically Eldrazi Obligator. It's the Threaten on a 3/1 haste body. Wasn't
that your pick 2 weeks ago?
I remember talking about.
I swear you picked Obligator.
It was not his pick 2 weeks ago, according to the all-knowing spreadsheet.
Oh. Yeah,
I talked about it. He talked about the deck, but it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Right, and that's why I wanted to circle back on it, because it made it top 8 even in the new meta. And the thing with the Eldrazi decks is they sometimes go through flavors of the week, etc. But with Jund being a thing, being able to cascade, being the Bloodbraid, Eldrazi deck is good, and you can cascade into this card and then still pay the threaten cost that happens when you cast it to take the Tarmogoyf or what have you.
Whew, that's a beating.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, not to mention just Blood Braid into Eldrazi Obligator on its own is 6 hasty damage, right? And that's all.
Do you have to
things.
Let me pull this card up. Do you have to pay a mana to?
It's one in a colorless.
Yeah,
oh,
colorless.
So it's kind of hard to Blood Braid into it and have the mana up to use it.
It's not though. It's
Eldrazi though, so you can pay with it with a
Oh, that's right. Cool.
Yeah, like if you have 5 lands and 4 of them cast Blood Braid and the other one is that's it. I don't think it can be Temple, right?
Temple is activated abilities.
It's a triggered ability.
Temple is abilities, yeah.
It's a triggered ability.
Temple still just has abilities.
Okay. I don't know the answer to that one.
None of us know how magic cards work.
Yeah, spend this mana only to cast Colorless Eldrazi or activate abilities of Colorless
It's not
Eldrazi.
an activated ability. You don't activate it.
It doesn't say activated abilities. It says you may use it to activate abilities.
You're not activating an ability. It doesn't work. I had it happen to me on Magic Online.
Okay.
Unless I'm somehow misremembering, but I played this deck on Mighty Modern a few weeks ago, and I feel like I had that exact same question and learned that it did not work.
Okay.
But regardless, one of us is right, so hey, we told you guys right.
You average to tell them nothing on average.
The deck makes a bunch of mana, and there are certainly game states where you cascade into it and you get threatened something. But even in the worst case, it's still a hasty 3/1 to go along with your hasty 3/2, and that's pretty good. But anyway, so Eldrazi Obligator, real cheap Eldrazi card, pick it up. That deck seems like it's probably going to be around for a bit in Modern. All right, everybody, I'm going to get off. I've got to get out of my hotel room.
Hey,
You can go.
My pick of the week is Triumph for the Hordes.
You guys can go. That's a good pick. I'm gonna
My pick
of
the week is Triumph for the Hordes. Green 2 sorcery until end of turn. Your creatures win the goddamn game.
It's a new Phyrexia uncommon. 90% of our listeners weren't even playing a new Phyrexia.
Yeah. It just keeps going up. Triumph for the Hordes.
I think Triumph
and it's something they're not going to really be all that eager to reprint, right? Because it's
because Infect is so terrible.
Every Infect card has to be reprinted all at once, and how?
Yeah,
exactly.
Just how?
Because they're also degenerate.
Every card with Infect on it has to be reprinted at the same time. Whether it's Skithiryx, whether it's Corpse Cur, whether it's Triumph for the Hordes, whether it's Plague Stinger. You can't just be here's one in the set, here's one in one.
Or they reprint Triumph for the Hordes and maybe 1 or 2 other cards with a bunch of new Infect stuff, which I don't think they're inclined to do.
I think that's pretty high on the storm scale. I could be misremembering that, but yeah. I actually have a bunch of Triumph for the Hordes, and they just keep going up. So I haven't sold them yet. So.
Yeah, it's one of those cards where I sell one every now and again, but I find them in bulk often enough that I'm accumulating them. But I'm just choosing not to list them on TCG because I know they go higher.
Yeah, I just have them in my spec boxes. They just keep moving up. So
I'm selling out at 10. I think 10 is my out point. But if you're a green player in Commander and you haven't played this card, you probably should.
It's pretty broken.
It's just it ends the game.
Yeah. All right.
People are I can.
Can we end the podcast?
No.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. This is just so
rolling,
you know.
Rolling exit. We just sort of fade to black while we're talking about.
No,
we're talking over Corbin. He's trying to do the outro, and we just won't let him.
I just want to say this meme about me not being on here. I am going to great lengths and incurring extra charges at my hotel to make this podcast happening. That's Brainstorm Brewery, everyone. We'll see you next week.
That money is coming out of the Patreon.
Patreon.com/Brainstorm Brewery. Give us your money. Support this podcast. Don't buy A25 packs.
Don't buy a Squatty Potty yet.
Buy a Squatty Potty. Maybe don't buy it ever.
Nice meme. Nice meme, bro.